Is the First Lady a good dancer?
Oh yeah, she's a really good dancer.
What if you were suddenly in the spotlight, dancing with the First Lady while the world watched? For Sergeant Henry Waller, this wasn't just a dream, it was reality at the Commander-in-Chief Ball. A towering 6'6" soldier, he had trained for many things, but not this.
I asked her how her night was going. She said it was going good.
What did Melania Trump whisper to him? How did he keep his composure? And what was his wife's reaction? In this video, we dive into a night of honor, nerves, and a dance that became truly unforgettable. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. The Commander-in-Chief Ball is a prestigious event held on Inauguration Night to honor the men and women of the US Armed Forces. Established in 2005, it has become a tradition, bringing together military personnel, veterans, and their families in a grand celebration that highlights their dedication and service to the country. The ball is an evening of elegance and appreciation, featuring live music, formal ceremonies, and the highly anticipated moment when the President, First Lady, Vice President, and Second Lady dance with selected service members, a symbolic gesture of unity and respect for those who serve. One of the most talked about moments of the Commander-in-Chief Ball in 2025 was the dance between Sergeant Henry Waller and First Lady Melania Trump. Waller, a distinguished member of the US Army Honor Guard, was chosen for the honor not only for his service. Despite his experience in ceremonial duties, dancing with the First Lady on such a grand stage was an entirely different experience. Waller's presence at the ball wasn't just about the dance, it was about representing his fellow service members and reminding the nation of the dedication and sacrifice of those in uniform. When Sergeant Henry Waller stepped onto the floor of the Commander-in-Chief Ball, he did so with a mixture of nerves and pride. As a member of the prestigious US Army Honor Guard, he had experienced ceremonial moments before, but nothing quite like this. The occasion was grand, the room filled with the country's most influential figures, and the First Lady herself, Melania Trump, awaited his presence on the dance floor. He tried to keep his composure, knowing that this was no ordinary event, and he had never imagined he'd be in the spotlight this way. Backstage, the anticipation was palpable as Sergeant Waller, a towering figure at 6'6", prepared himself. With his uniform crisp and his composure steady, he was ready for a moment that would be etched in his memory forever. No amount of preparation could have fully readied him for the surreal experience of dancing with the First Lady. As he approached her, his imposing presence commanded attention, but in that moment, the world seemed to narrow down to just the two of them. The room faded away, leaving only the music, their graceful movements, and the surreal feeling of sharing such a momentous occasion. There was no formality to this moment. The evening had been full of polished rituals. But here, in this dance, there was a rare opportunity for a personal connection. And that made all the difference. The stiff formalities of ceremonial dances were replaced by a moment of warmth and ease. They moved in unison across the floor as the cameras flashed, but in that brief time, it was just the two of them. As the spotlight found Henry onto the grand stage, the energy of the evening rushed toward him, and a feeling of joy and disbelief filled his chest. "We were told we could smile," he recalled later on in an interview.
Smile if you want to, and I was just overwhelmed with joy being out on the stage where all those people were cheering for me.
The weight of his uniform and the honor of the moment pressed in on him. He was just trying to contain himself with a smile, betraying the nerves beneath his calm exterior. His eyes scanned the crowd briefly, but it was Melania Trump standing before him, who commanded his full attention. Melania Trump, known for her composed and reserved demeanor, had a grace that made the whole experience more effortless. She made it easy, Waller says with a smile. The simplicity of their conversation reflected the unspoken understanding between them. "I asked how her evening was going," Waller recalls. "She said it was going well, and then she asked about mine. I told her it was fantastic." The moment felt genuine, free from the scripted formality of high-profile events. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. As the dance progressed, there was a brief exchange when Melania leaned in to whisper something to him. Waller can't quite remember the exact words, but it didn't matter. "I think it was just a friendly comment," he says, smiling. Something like, "It's an honor to be here with you." It wasn't some secret message or anything like that. It was just a nice moment between two people. The audience watched as Sergeant Henry Waller moved gracefully across the floor with the First Lady, his initial nervousness slowly melting away. Among the crowd stood his wife, her eyes fixed on him, a mixture of pride and quiet amusement flickering across her face. She knew him better than anyone, how he had placed their living room, practicing his steps with her, laughing at his own awkwardness. Watching him now, she couldn't help but smile at the contrast. Gone was the man who had worried about stepping on toes. In his place was a soldier carrying himself with poise and confidence, dancing in front of the world. "The only rehearsal I did was back home with my wife," she heard him say later.
The only rehearsing I did was back home with my wife, dancing with her.
His voice tinged with fondness. It had been a simple, intimate preparation, just the two of them, far from the grandeur of this moment. And yet, as she watched him move effortlessly with the First Lady, she realized those quiet nights of practice had led him to this incredible moment. The dance was short, but in that fleeting time, Waller felt as though he had stepped into a piece of history. The exchange of pleasantries, the way Melania carried herself with such poise, left a lasting impression. Waller hadn't been trained for such formal dances, and he laughed at the thought of practicing with his wife at home. "I'm no ballroom dancer, that's for sure," he admits, but with her leading, it was easy to just follow. The spotlight may have shone brightest on Waller's dance with Melania, but he wasn't the only one to step onto the stage that night. Following tradition, President Donald Trump also joined the moment, dancing with Sergeant Tatiana Saldana of the United States Space Force. His usual bold gestures were softened, his movements measured as he swayed to a slow rendition of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, a rare, almost reflective moment. Elsewhere, Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha, seamlessly became part of the celebration, exchanging partners with military personnel. Vance found himself dancing with Staff Sergeant Lexus Martinez of the Marine Corps, while Usha shared a moment with Petty Officer Emmanuel of the Navy. Each step seemed to echo the administration's gesture of honoring the armed forces, making the night more than just a spectacle. It was a tribute. The days that followed were filled with messages from Waller's family, friends, and even strangers who marveled at his composure. The attention was overwhelming, but also humbling. People kept asking me about the secret conversation. Waller chuckles. I guess they thought something more was going on than just a simple dance. For Waller, the dance was more than just a high-profile moment. It was a reminder of the respect and camaraderie between the military and the presidency. It was an honor to be there, he reflects, just a small part of a much bigger tradition of honoring those who serve. The night didn't end with just the dance. As Melania and the president made their rounds through the ball, Waller stood by, watching the energy in the room shift. He wasn't the only one dancing with military personnel that night, but his moment with the First Lady was the one that seemed to catch everyone's attention. In a room full of grand gestures and flashy performances, it was the simple human connection on the dance floor that made this memory last. For Sergeant Waller, it would be a moment he would never forget. What about you? Do you think these moments of personal connection in such grand events carry a deeper significance, or are they just fleeting encounters in the middle of ceremony? Let us know in the comments.